The campaign hasn't gone terribly well so far, has it?
Well, I would argue that that's not true. I think what we're seeing is first of all, obviously we would wish that we were higher in the polls and we were seeing huge upticks, but actually I think we need to look at the picture on the ground in many constituencies. This is an unprecedented general election. We knew that this was going to be volatile, and actually what's become clear to me as I've been out and about is that there are microclimates going on in different constituencies. We know that the Liberal Democrats always get squeezed. This was bound to happen when the Brexit Party did their deal with the Conservative Party and stood down in those seats, no longer able to form a government. We then were back to that sort of three-party system where you get that classic squeeze on our vote. That's disappointing, but that's the first past the post system for you. And in seats, particularly in Remain areas, particularly against the Tories, actually we are doing very, very well. And even that isn't being reflected even in the big sort of projected polls. If you look at the specific seat polls that have been done in seats like that, actually we're doing very, very well.
Right, but you are talking about microclimates. You are talking about particular seats. You've had to massively scale back your ambitions, haven't you? From the outset of this election, Jo Swinson said she wanted to be the next Prime Minister. Now she is saying the aim is to get a few more MPs in Parliament and stop the Conservative Party winning a majority. Wow, things have changed.
I've been on your programme before and said that that was a stretch target, and I think it's absolutely fine for political parties to come to the electorate with our vision for the future, which would include us being a majority government and being really clear about what that is.
Has it backfired, Layla? Has that been the result of part of the squeeze? People just didn't think it was realistic and they didn't believe Jo Swinson.
I don't think so, actually. I think what has happened on the ground is, as I say, when the Brexit Party stood down, that then concentrated the minds of actually, do people want a Boris Johnson or a Jeremy Corbyn government? Actually, what we're saying is you don't have to have outright majorities for either of those parties. And what I'm worried about at the moment is we've seen a surge in the polls for the Tories. I'm very, very, very worried about a Boris Johnson majority government. There is a half-truth.
Well, let's stick with the Liberal Democrat. Let's stick with the Liberal Democrats.
Well, no, but this is important because our position on Stop Brexit is actually just being honest with people. There is a half-truth being told in the Tory manifesto, which is that to get Brexit done means it's all over. We know that's not true. It's the first of several deals.
Yeah, but your honesty over Brexit, your revoke policy, not just to hold a second referendum, but to cancel it altogether, that's backfired, hasn't it?
No, I don't agree, actually. People are telling me that it's clear, they appreciate the honesty at a time when honesty in politics, let's face it, is at a premium. And we've been very clear that that was if we had a majority government. We always had the fallback position of our standard position that we've been pushing for 3.5 years. The idea that the Labour Party are now fully on board of people's vote, we know it. They came kicking and screaming to that position.
Right, OK, well, on that, Layla,
we still don't know if they're going to campaign to remain.
Sure, you may think that they've come kicking and screaming, and there is evidence to show that. But if you're a Remain voter in this political landscape and you see the Labour Party is now offering very clearly a second referendum with Remain or a very, very soft Brexit on the other side, why would you vote Lib Dem?
Because if you are a Remain voter, at least with us, you know that we've got your interests at heart.
But you can't actually engineer a second referendum. It could only really be the Labour Party. Well, you're not going to win a majority, as you said.
We've always been the ones who have been pushing for this. Remember why we are in this election. We are in this election because Boris Johnson's deal was being enabled by Labour MP votes. They were about to get this deal through. And actually this election is people's last chance to possibly stop Brexit because the position of the Labour Party... And the best way of doing that
is to vote for the Labour Party.
No, it's not. And certainly in seats...
But you're not going to win a majority.
But we need to stop Boris Johnson from winning a majority. If there is any chance that we can stop Brexit, then we need to make sure that we maximise the number of people who, even if they're lukewarm towards it, are in Parliament. There are very many seats in this country where only the Liberal Democrats can beat the Conservatives. Those Remain voters that come and consider us don't go to Labour in those circumstances. They go back to the Tories. If you want to stop Brexit, you need to vote Liberal Democrat.
Layla, we have a panel of guests here, as you know. Deborah Mattinson is here and has focus grouped many, many things. When it comes to the Liberal Democrats, how has the revoke policy actually gone down with voters?
It doesn't go down very well.
Even with Liberal Democrat voters?
No, and even with Remain voters, because I think even a lot of Remain voters feel that it is anti-democratic, that is a problem, that you're basically not taking any account of what's happened before, and even people who voted Remain, who aren't happy with the pathway that we're on, which is a lot of people, are still not happy. And but what it's also done, I think it's posed a second problem, which is it has completely eclipsed everything else. We were talking earlier about what's landed from the manifestos, and it's one of the reasons why nothing has landed from the Lib Dems manifesto, because this is the only thing people know.
Layla?
So I think there's a range of reasons. I hear that too. And actually, when I then explain to people that that would be in an outright Lib Dem majority government, and that until that point, we are just going to work to stop Brexit in any way we can, and if that includes a people's vote, then that's what we will continue to do, as we have done over the last 3.5 years. Actually, people then listen. Our ground game in our seats will make sure that that message gets across to people, and I find that when you have those conversations, those Remain voters understand, especially in Conservative-facing seats where you are facing either Boris Johnson's deal or indeed no deal at the end of a transition that he is now saying he's absolutely not going to extend. When you're faced with that choice, they come over and they vote Liberal Democrat.
What about Jo Swinson? How has she gone down with voters?
Well, yes, just if I can pick up on a point that was just made by Layla. I mean, I think you have so few opportunities to get your idea over, get your policies over to an electorate that very often aren't listening, to actually be saying different things. I think that's what you were saying on the ground from things that you're saying nationally seems to me to be totally bizarre. Yes, Jo Swinson, this is also a problem, I think, and I think what we've seen in this campaign is we've shifted from people really not knowing anything very much at all to looking at her and not liking what they see very much. And for me, it's quite a bizarre strategy to have, it's almost what Theresa May did last time round, to place the whole, you know, this isn't the Lib Dems, this is Jo Swinson's Lib Dems. I don't understand why. There are lots of good people, including Layla, who could be out there fronting, and I don't understand why they've placed everything. Surely they did their own focus groups and saw what we're seeing now.
Was that a mistake, Layla?
I don't think it was. I mean, I think what we have in Jo Swinson, I think there is an element of we need to get to know her better. This election was called just weeks after she took over as leader. And there hasn't been as many opportunities as certainly I would have liked for people to have seen all facets of her. The Jo I know is incredibly passionate, has huge integrity, and the position we've taken speaks of the honesty that we want to put across to the electorate. I know that, you know, on the ground, when people do see her, and particularly among Remain voters, that honesty is resonating with people. I wish people could see her more and more of her and more different sides of her, and I think that that would have made a huge difference. But you're right, in the end, there is no player bigger than the team, and the Liberal Democrat team is one that's been totally upfront about what we stand for. I should also say that then moving that conversation on doorsteps to NHS and education has been much easier, because at least people know where we stand on Brexit. We don't sit there explaining it to people. We then go and talk about the things that really matter to them.
Layla, thank you very much for joining us.